Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Snorkel Science Talks, where we bring together the best of minds in AI. My name is Devang Sachdev, and I'm a VP of Marketing here at Snorkel. Over the course of last couple of weeks, we've seen several requests from our audience come through about one topic in particular. And this one is about how data scientists and developers who aspire to become entrepreneurs one day, how do they get started with their entrepreneurial journey, especially in this nascent space of AI products and services. And having spent some time at Twilio myself, I got the opportunity to work with developers who started in a garage, and now their babies, their ideas have turned into mega enterprises, whether it's about ride sharing or payments or more. And I truly believe that the next generation of mega enterprises, of amazing technologies, are going to be founded by data scientists and machine learning engineers. So it's my pleasure today to be joined by Raviraj Jain. Raviraj, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting me, Devang. I'm very excited for this conversation today.
Excellent. Raviraj is a partner at Lightspeed Ventures. He's focused on enterprise IT, cloud-based services, and applications, and particularly related to machine intelligence. Some of Raviraj's investments include companies like Dexterity, which focuses on autonomous warehouse products, Reliable and Tonkean for no-code automation, and also Snorkel to improve the way AI applications are built, and many more. So again, Raviraj, we're joined with you to talk about how do data scientists and machine learning engineers start their entrepreneurial journey related to AI products and opportunities in the market. Maybe to kick off, I understand that before joining Lightspeed, you had led product efforts at Fundbox and LinkedIn. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you find yourself into machine learning and in the world of artificial intelligence?
Thanks, Devang. So I think my journey and interest in AI, ML and robotics actually started in college. I actually am a physicist by training and roboticist out of interest. And back in college, I was always fascinated about new technologies and how new technologies can be applied to push the envelope of science and science in some way. The first time I actually got exposed to machine learning was when I was doing my final year project in college, where I used support vector machines to solve a classification problem in high energy physics. It's pretty powerful because SVM was able to do the job that traditional methods took forever or were never able to do it. Right. And I think that the way once I applied that, I realized that there's just massive opportunity if these things become real and we start thinking about ML in real life scenarios. So that's kind of where my interest came from. I think at LinkedIn, I was briefly exposed to ML as we were working on relevance for jobs and content in the LinkedIn data feed. And I think that's sort of my exposure, and it was still preliminary, but I realized that small things can actually really make a tangible impact on LinkedIn's revenues in that case. So I already started seeing the value of ML. And so that's when I joined Lightspeed. I thought I'll make that my major and really spend a lot of time meeting with experts like the Stanford's, AI lab and many more industry practitioners to just learn and get really deep into the space because it was very clear to me that if applied well, this can really create a step change improvement in productivity around the world and therefore create some really large enterprises in the process.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what an inspirational and unique journey. I've talked to several folks who are now in the world of AI. There are very few who come from the robotics background, who come from physics, moving over to a product like LinkedIn, and then from there on taking the VC path. So certainly very unique. And then talking about LinkedIn, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I'm not on LinkedIn. So certainly a lot of thanks goes back to you and the rest of the LinkedIn team for changing the way that we at least network when it comes to business. And talking about AI, AI is still very early. So IDC has predicted that AI will be a $500 billion industry by 2024. And there are several other estimates that are much more optimistic about how large the AI industry will be, or what would be the impact of the AI industry be, especially on enterprise AI. But in some sense, we still feel that enterprise AI is in its infancy. There's certainly a lot of opportunity. What opportunities are you seeing in the market, especially for data scientists and developers who are looking to offer new tools or applications or services from your vantage point?
Yeah, thanks, Devang. Actually, before I address the exact opportunities, I'd say, when we hear numbers like $500 billion by 2024, a lot of us just like blink, saying like, this is unreal. And these are some analysts sitting and actually estimating and projecting market size can't be real. But honestly, for when technology is this disruptive, as ML and AI come to the fore, the market opportunity is oftentimes even more than analysts have predicted for these technologies in the past. So I very much believe in that. If anything, in the long term, that's actually not as ambitious projection as I think the industry can be, right? And what that means is that anything in that space, if you really do it well, creates a pretty multi-billion-dollar opportunity. Right? It almost feels like you can slice the entire AI landscape whichever way you like. If you build best-in-class product, I think you're guaranteed to build, if executed well, $1 billion company, right? I think so. That's sort of like high level, right? If you really just go to a level deeper, I think there are a few areas where AI can have like a very unique, advantage over traditional methods, and that's computer vision, right? We are seeing the impact of that in autonomous vehicles, where I'm involved with companies like Aurora, or in NLP. Snorkel is actually doing a lot of amazing things in unstructured data, right? So I think there are things where there are these specific areas where there's a lot of opportunity. Now, there's also opportunity to build horizontal ML platforms, right? So if enterprises will be using embedded AI applications, but enterprises will also have enterprise-wide ML platforms, right? And I think there will be a need for end-to-end platforms to build mobile ML applications, just like Snorkel. There will be need for building monitoring and governance tools to make sure that these models are, as per, are not biased in some way. And then there's also a lot of opportunity to build, just existing application stack, right? The last 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, seen several large SaaS companies go public, and all of them can have a AI version, right? Either AI becomes like a system of intelligence on top of these applications, or we will see a next generation of these applications, which will have AI fundamentally embedded in that, right? And I think that's another really large opportunity. There are companies like Moveworks, for example, which is also a Lightspeed portfolio company, which uses AI in IT services management, right? And I think that itself fundamentally improves the SLA as well as the efficiency of the entire ITSM workforce. So I think there's a lot of meaningful shift that AI will have across all applications. And then finally, I think there is big opportunity in process automation, right? So basically thinking about different workflows, and AI provides with sort of like this ability to actually automate cognitive tasks, which can actually create pretty big opportunity. It doesn't have to be a horizontal AI platform like UiPath is for RPA tasks. It can be very opinionated, specific workflows which you can actually end-to-end automate using AI and drive pretty meaningful efficiency. So I think just sort of like to summarize, I think one opportunity is basically thinking about AI outside the screen, so like autonomous vehicles, robots, and so on. Second opportunity is basically next level applications. Third opportunity is just horizontal ML platforms and even sections of that, basically building the equivalent of what you have for software development to model development. And then finally, there's process automation, where there is a huge opportunity. And each of those, there's other way to cut it through, like collect data, right? So computer vision, natural language, and unstructured data. But I think that's sort of like how you think about it. If you really have to think if any of our people who are watching this, like viewers, would like to understand how they and what they should start, they should always start from their own experiences, right? And understand where do they have a unique vantage point. And a lot of data scientists are seeing problems that the world will face after them. So one of the best recipes to identify an opportunity is to actually see what cutting edge technical organizations are, the problems that they are facing, and then just go out and democratize it for the world. And that is the recipe that has always worked in so many other enterprise infrastructure applications. And I would imagine that will definitely work with AI as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And I liked how you broke it down into these four areas of opportunity. And it's kind of phenomenal to think about that there is something so fundamental that's shifting about technology that is impacting all of these four areas. Because usually when you think about opportunities, you may have an opportunity in one of these pillars once in a decade. Like APIs made that change and turned all the older technologies towards a microservices based products, and we are seeing that kind of come through. And similarly, we saw that rise with cloud as well. Pure package SaaS. But
I almost would say, Devang, this is not even a once a decade opportunity; it's once 100-year opportunity. I believe that once we get to a point where AI is like ubiquitous, you will see that the impact of that on human productivity will likely exceed that of industrial revolution. And that's like a big, claim, but I think I already see the value, and when we see that with Snorkel's customers, but in general, where the kind of like the productivity shift is just incredible.
That's so exciting, and it's in some sense it's a privilege to be part of this change. And to be at the forefront of driving this change, whether it's being part of Snorkel or Lightspeed as well through their portfolio companies. The other thing, opportunity that I see, maybe you agree with it, is data scientists themselves that are watching this. They're facing problems with developing new products. At the end of the day, what we're seeing is now data science is starting to have a seat at the table when it comes to building technology products. And this was a shift that took place for developers not too long ago. And with this seat at the table, they're starting to realize that they have to work with other teams. They have to work with a product team. They have to work with a business team, possibly with an engineering team, a deployment team, a data team, and then themselves are oriented towards science. So the squad that's actually building products has grown, and collaboration between this squad needs to be a lot more fluid, needs to be a lot more connected. And that itself can be a big opportunity on top of, in each of these four pillars that you described, because in each of those pillars, that collaboration could be uniquely unlocked.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we are seeing some early winners there. But again, we are just, scratching the surface of the opportunity. So there's so much more to be done.
Absolutely. So, talking about 2021, it's been a record-breaking year already in terms of investments, especially seed and early stage investments, right? Number of startups that have received funding has grown from 2020 to 2021 by 60%. Number of dollars that have been invested into seed stage and early stage companies have doubled. So there's definitely a lot of interest from the market in terms of backing some of these new ideas, and specifically in an exciting area like machine learning. But when you think about investing, what characteristics are you seeking out from a team or from a particular product or from a particular business segment that they're going after in order to make a determination that this is an investment that you would like to make?
Absolutely. And I think there are some new things, but there are also, all the AI companies also in some sense are in the broader domain of enterprise. And Lightspeed's been, a deep enterprise investor for more than 2 decades now. And in the world of enterprise, domain expertise and unique IP really goes a long way, right? So if you do have a unique domain expertise for the problem that you're solving by the virtue of where you worked, what you've done, or you have a unique IP that gives you an advantage over others, that's a really good starting point for you to start a company. In addition, it really helps if you're solving a huge problem, or you can clearly identify a strong market tailwind in favor of the solution that you're solving for. I think with AI, for most cases, the latter is kind of taken care of, just because I feel, as I mentioned, we are at the infancy and there's just so much more to do. So I think one lens, again, going back to what I said earlier, is like understand what you are doing as a practitioner right now, and maybe there's a part of the problems that you are facing that you can solve for not just for yourself, but for the world, and that'll create an opportunity. Or understand what unique understanding do you have about applications of AI in particular vertical or problem set that you can bring it to the world. Or just like Snorkel, you have a unique IP, that you have a unique IP that can solve some of the fundamental ML problems much better than anyone else, right? That's really what matters. Early stages, honestly, if you think about it, right, we are investing in companies when things are not that clear, right? So I think what matters is not the product that you've built, but what matters is the problem that you're solving. And if that problem is meaningful, has the right tailwinds, smart people and smart founders can actually morph the product with time. And I think that's why, in some sense, and I say that very openly, is like founders with a product mindset, which is thinking about, they're not thinking about technology as an end to itself, but actually thinking about product and customer problems front and center, are the founders we've seen have actually succeeded more than others.
That's great to hear. And just talking about founding teams and having that product mindset, the other part of this is also identifying what pitfalls or challenges to expect, and then to sidestep them or to hurdle over them in order to be successful or capitalize on this opportunity relatively quickly and confidently. Any tips that you would share with from your experience or the experience of your portfolio companies?
Right. So I think, as one would expect, most of the founders in the ML and AI space are fairly technical, right? And I think when you're very technical, you tend to believe sometimes that the customer understands your language. And I think that's a big pitfall, right? I think it's really important for founders to actually learn how to tell the story or what they're doing in the customer's language, right? Because you are not you're not in the business of building the best tech. That's a means to an end. You're in the business of solving a problem when you start an enterprise, solving a business problem which has a lot of value, monetizable value. It's really important to understand your buyer's mindset, right? And it's really important to learn how to sell. I cannot emphasize more, right? Like, I think founders should learn how to sell their product or technology to customers first before you have people leading that effort. And then founders have to learn how to focus, right? It's not about let's build the best technology and see what happens. You have to really focus on what exactly are you trying to solve. And that becomes hard, because there's so many opportunity here, so much opportunity here that you end up like thinking, well, I can do this and I can do that. But really what you need to understand is like that problem that buyers care about, that they have budgets for, and then you solve it in a world-class way to win. And it's an important factor. And then finally, and this is like something which is not as talked about, is like, founders should learn, like, oftentimes if you're a very technical founder, you are surrounded by other technical people all the time, right? But what is important as you go from a technical leader to a founder, you need to start appreciating even more the value of diverse and different minds and perspectives, because you as a founder do not know everything yourself, and you need to make sure that you surround yourself in the team with people with a diverse perspective and mindset to be able to build a company which is going to be lasting and impactful.
Yeah, I also liked particularly what you said around you're in the business of problem solving, not just necessarily building a product for the sake of building a product or proving a technology. And I think that can shift the mindset for a lot of people. Especially with enterprise AI, there are so many best practices, there are so many new playbooks that you would need to develop when it comes to go to market. And that is one area where a lot of founders struggle, whether it's related to marketing or sales or customer success. And it's sometimes it's a good idea to be a student of those particular domains, and sometimes it's a good idea to have people who have been experts in those domains. And maybe the best idea is to add the two together and get the most out of it.
Absolutely.
Kind of wrapping this up with this, my last question. Any books or shows or talks that you have lately heard or read or watched that you have particularly enjoyed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, for most of my life, I've only focused on reading nonfiction because it's just like, I wanted to get something tangible out of it. But I really have recently getting more attracted to sci-fi. So I just started reading Three Body Problem. And it's mostly to expand my mind and start thinking about possibilities and like future, and just sort of like puts you in the right mindset sometimes to think about just sort of like what can happen in the world. So definitely starting with Three Body Problem, but want to read a lot more sci-fi books. So that's one thing is that on the reading side. And in podcast, I really actually enjoy listening to Invest Like the Best, Patrick O'Shaughnessy's podcast. And, in that, I especially enjoy listening to investors who are not investing in the kind of companies I'm investing in. So usually public market investors, commodities investors, macro investors, because in the end, investing is in some sense at the core of it very similar. So I learn a lot from their perspective, and Patrick is really good at asking pointed and specific questions, and he picks up like guests who just simplify. So I think that I find fascinating, and I think it's something that anyone can listen to and learn a lot about how investors think.
That's awesome. I'm a big podcast nerd, especially when it comes to true crime shows. So now maybe there's a new genre for me to get away from the mundane. Yeah. But anyways, Raviraj, this was such a fun talk and such an interesting topic. Thank you for spending some time with us. I'm sure that our viewers are going to get some golden nuggets out of this conversation. So viewers can find me at Devang Sachdev at gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter with the same handle, or LinkedIn with the same handle as well. Raviraj, how does one find you?
Yeah, so I'm always available on LinkedIn, Raviraj Jain, Raviraj Jain. I'm also on email, so raviraj@lsvp.com, which is my work email. And I'm always excited to meet with potential founders who are thinking about ideas and brainstorm with them, right? Like a lot of happiness or satisfaction of my job comes from working at the very foundational stages. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to just like brainstorm different ideas you have, or even like even if you're not thinking about starting up right away, to the extent that I could be helpful, I'm always there and available.
Excellent. Thank you, Raviraj.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Devang.